Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Sunday Night Breakdown. Daniel Ratledge and Dave Forrester with you to look back over the action in the British Basketball League. Dave, you look like you're ready to pounce here. You look like you're about to say something.
Happy birthday, Dan. That's what I
Thank,
was going
thank
to
you very
say.
much, Dave.
Right,
I
that's
have
it. That's formality's over.
indeed. Um, I have avoided any birthday tipples to this point. I'm
Oh,
still on the water. My father-in-law brought some very nice looking cinnamon flavored Jack Daniels, I think. So I might have to
true,
try that out, but I'll wait to the
true dedication.
wait to the end of the show. So let's start with the European games. Big win for Bristol in Poland. Caledonia didn't pull off the uber upset that it would have been to knock off Bilbao, and London made to work hard against Cedevita, but saw them off in the M101.95.
Yeah, I mean, the most compelling game was the Bristol game because they
Mm,
absolutely dominated the team that's second in the Polish league.
mm,
Albeit I think they're missing a point guard, but Bristol just put a new point guard in and then
mm,
missing a forward. So, I mean, they absolutely destroyed that team in
yeah,
Poland. Um, they They were the embodiment of what I always thought was our advantages in European games against certain level of competition,
yeah.
which the quickness, the athleticism, the aggression, the rebounding, whatever. They just absolutely, they destroyed them from beginning to end.
And
Um,
interestingly, Jackson looked more at home against the Polish team than he has thus far
he
against the
did, yeah,
British
yeah.
teams.
I think it's just the speed thing, isn't it?
Mm,
And So in coming off two losses as well for Bristol,
mm,
I thought that was an incredible performance. And yet again, it's another one which kind of leaves us all up
mm,
a little notch in the hierarchy in Europe if people are trying to place us. The Lions game, they did enough to win.
mm.
I watched most of it. The Caledonia game, I didn't watch much of it at all because I didn't see any way that they were going to beat Bilbao, I'm afraid. So I can't talk about that game at all, basically. Um, but overall, I thought the Bristol game was just monumental, really.
Yeah, indeed, agreed. So let's go to the British Basketball League games, and we'll start on Thursday. I'm sure you enjoyed this one, Dave. London Lions 80, Newcastle Eagles 102. Eagles don't win in London very often in recent years. Uh,
Anymore, yeah, anymore.
anymore. They did when you were there, obviously, Dave, but not
Occasionally.
anymore. Uh, Nodeka, Solowadi, Philip Nelson, and Grantham, I believe. Austin was back for Newcastle, so that was a big plus. Johnson, McGill, Ward, Hibbett knocking down threes. Offense looked super easy for Newcastle early on, and they were out to a 27-18 lead.
Well, you can't take this game as a kind of in a vacuum,
Mm,
because the starting point of this game is who's playing for London.
mm,
And there's some recurring threads through this week's stuff, which
mm,
I'm gonna come back to, which primarily all kind of link into kind of a growing concern as to whether we actually have any rules in the sport at all, or certainly in our league at all.
mm,
Um, Obviously, Solwade, Decker, and Philip are injured.
mm,
Grantham and Nelson played the night before and looked anything but injured, so one has to assume that they are rested.
mm,
Um, and I'm yet to understand as to whether there are any regulations in relation to the appropriate resting or not of players, particularly if in TV games.
mm,
I talk about it because it does impact the competition. I don't talk about it because it's a criticism of London. It's not. London do what London have to do. Bozic has nothing to worry about other than his own team and what is right for his own team and his own
mm,
schedule. But we are not far away from a situation whereby we have one league-owned team playing against another league-owned team or majority shareholder-owned team, and being able to manipulate the result that they want. Now, I'm not suggesting that would happen, but
mm,
it's a question of whether it could look like that would happen.
mm, mm,
And the reality is, any sporting competition, first and foremost, has to protect its own integrity and has to be not only above board, but be seen to be above board. Now, as I say, that is not a criticism of London or Bozic, but it is a criticism of where we are with regulation within the league, because I don't know And there's a few things this week that have come on in relation to this. I don't know. And now, to be absolutely fair to Newcastle in this game, they actually outplayed London's starting five, which was pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And London's starting five came out like they had really limited appetite for the game. They didn't get back on defense. They were a little bit, they played 3 minutes of basketball in the whole game. London, that was beginning of the third quarter, after Bozic had gone through them at half time. But what Newcastle did well in this game, and we've talked about the when can you rest, when you can't rest before, so I'll ditch that there. But what Newcastle did well in this game was that they actually outplayed the starters in the starter minutes at the beginning of the first quarter and the second quarter.
Yeah.
That meant that when the bench came on, and we're back to the Ilford second 11, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
When the bench came on, both at the end
them.
of the first quarter and then the second quarter, they torched them. And what that meant was that created enough separation whereby Poch wasn't ever going to overcommit his players to try to win the game.
Yeah.
Now, if that had been an 8-point game half time,
it's that thing. The point you talked about last week with the Manchester game, where Manchester forced Matt Morgan to play however many 29 minutes or whatever it was. Here, because the game had got away, there was no point in Matt Morgan playing those minutes, and therefore you would play more.
Yeah, he gave them the telling off at half time.
Yeah.
And they came out, they played 4 minutes of defense, but Newcastle just have enough talent. They're not going to go scoreless for a quarter, Newcastle, not with Gillen Johnson playing the way they are, Mortimer but playing at his old gym, And so once Newcastle kind of broke that run and it never got down below 15, then you were just waiting to like the 3-minute mark of the third quarter when the players were coming out, because he's not playing them more than 6 or 7 minutes in a row. And you knew at that point, if you got to that and it wasn't a game or it wasn't close enough, you knew you have the chance to pull it out. And that's exactly what happened. They pulled it back out to like 26, 27 by the end of the third quarter.
Yeah.
It was done. So the bigger issue in the whole game for me is, as I say, for instance, Leicester are probably going to come up against a probably different London team next week.
Yeah.
As did Manchester, as opposed to Plymouth, for instance. And injured players are injured players, no problem. Rested players in BBL games, I'm uneasy about, because there appears to be no regulation whatsoever.
It's just knowing what the rule is. If they're allowed to do whatever they want, then they can do whatever they want.
Well, is it? I mean, what exactly? Exactly. Yeah. What are the rules? Are they required to provide some medical information, anything like that? This is actually we're kind of behind the NBA in so many ways now. We're almost trying to mimic the NBA in a lot of things that we do, with the timeouts and all of this stuff in the regular season and all the games that the guys are playing. But we're behind them in that we're not regulating it at all. So in the NBA, rest is regulated now, particularly in relation to TV games, but they're aware that it has become an issue, because people are paying hundreds of dollars to see Steph, and they're not seeing Steph or Giannis or whatever. So they're aware it's an issue and they're trying to handle it. I won't see at this point in time any indication that there are any issues that the league is trying to solve in relation to the competitive side of it, as to what's going on off the court. I just don't, and there's a couple more coming up over this show. And that concerns me, because it becomes the Wild West. It just becomes anybody can do anything they want. And at the end of the day, a good lawyer will tell you it's not a question of waiting until something happens before you make the rules. You got to make the rules first. So when something happens, you're covered. And at the moment, I don't think we are. So I thought Newcastle played like a team that was just flying. To be fair, they had, and they all kind of filled a role, and they played well against a starting lineup that had 4 Eurocup players in, 4 bona fide Eurocup players in, and Jordan Johnson again, was as probably good as anybody on the court. But London were, I think, less than committed. London played Newcastle at Newcastle 3 weeks ago, or 4 weeks ago, and they laid down a marker and they said, "We're far better than you." It wasn't for them they're not really interested in laying down a marker again. It might be the next time, maybe it'll change again. But and to be fair, in that game 4 weeks ago, Sam Decker played, and Sam Decker shouldn't have played because he'd been hobbling up and down the court against Paris.
Yeah.
Sam Decker played, and he hasn't played since. So there is something in the whole wrestling and injury prevention.
Yeah.
I get that. I'm not against that. As I say, we need to know the rules so everybody's absolutely clear what they are, and that ultimately teams can't complain about being disadvantaged.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
So basically, there was an 8-0 run in the second quarter. They're up 20, and as you say, there was a few minutes in the third quarter where London looked decent, but they didn't make enough inroads for it to be much of a threat to a comeback. Queeley 5 of 8 for 13 points. Taylor 12.7 assists. Matt Morgan and Josh Sharma 11. Matt Morgan was a +10, by the way. They had 20 turnovers. Johnson 25 points, 6 assists. Josh Ward-Hibbert, who's playing sensationally at the minute, 23 points +30 in the game.
Benches just destroyed them.
Yeah.
Just destroyed.
Green 6 of 7 for says 16 points and 7 rebounds. In my head, I thought he had 15, but maybe it was 16. That's what I've written down. 25 points off those 20 turnovers that London had. Austin was a +27, by the way, 14.7 assists and 6 rebounds in his return. Didn't look.
Yeah, only played 19 minutes as well.
Yeah.
And I mean that was the biggest kind of thing because they found a nice rhythm, the two guards without Austin, and the reintegration was always going to be an issue. It was pretty seamless in this game because he played so hard and he didn't kind of take up the possessions that the other guys were using. He got his points off the transition, off the offensive rebounding, that type of thing. Queeley looked better than he did at any time last season.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing. That's the one positive for London. Test for him is still, can he shoot the three? That's the thing, but we don't know that yet. But at the moment, in reality, he's their 10th or 11th man, so he ain't going to be playing that much when the games really come to matter.
So let's go to Friday. Caledonia Gladiators 83, Cheshire Phoenix 92. Stick that in your documentary. Parlisa. Hey, I'm waiting. I haven't checked to see what the response has been tonight, but I'll have a look in a bit.
The response was job done.
Oh, was it? Is that what?
And I have to say, an impressively refined response, I thought.
This is kind of a rivalry that a lot of people, I don't think, noticed, but these two teams, there has been something there for a number of years. I mean,
it's kind of all the way up the M6, isn't it? And then the M80, 93 or whatever it is, all the way.
73, is it? I think
73. That's the one.
Yeah. So Palisa, DeBose, Malcolm, Whelan hitting threes early on. Gladiators out to a 21-13 lead, and as they tend to do, they started well.
Yeah, well, the starting five is demonstrated that it's cohesive, talented, plays hard, knows how to guard, but they've fallen off a cliff since when the bench comes in because their bench is just they haven't got the right pieces to kind of maintain the tempo of what they're doing. Moore is being up and down, but generally, as a rookie American center, you would take the output he's given them. But the other guys who are getting minutes basically have been Malcolm, who hasn't really had an impact in the last 5 or 6 games. Buttrick, who's shooting 30% from the floor, which is crazily bad. Jovicic, who is yet to convince that he's at the level that he needs to be at to come up against some of the athletes in this league. And again, he's shooting like 31% from the floor. And KJ, Kyle Johnson, really hasn't played much. And that's their kind of their 10-man rotation. And when the bench, so what you've seen over the past few weeks is that Gareth's gone more and more to his starters. But in this game, he stuck with his bench in the second quarter, and I think Jovicic played the whole second quarter. Buttrick played quite a lot of it, and I'm afraid they got obliterated in the second quarter. I got their rhythm going, they got their energy going, and Caledonia at that point kind of just faded away, and looked like a pretty unhappy.
Before we get to that, we need to get to the important bit early in the second quarter when Clifton Moore Jr. was on the free throw line and was called for a line violation. Dave.
Yeah, somebody listens. So actually, I rewound it because I couldn't see. He must have big feet.
It was. It
But
didn't. It didn't look obvious. It didn't look egregious, but it
yeah,
was.
that
Yeah,
must be Chris. I think it was Chris Dodds who
it
called that one.
was Chris Dodds. Yeah,
He
yeah.
must have been listening. Yeah. Hey, look, it's the bottom line is it's part. It's just as much.
It's
If you
just in the rule.
if you
Yeah, yeah,
stand on the inbounds line when you
yeah,
throw the ball in, they're quite happy to call a violation.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah,
so if you step over before you throw the ball in on the inbounds, it's a violation. So it should be a violation.
yeah.
Fed up with mollycoddling these players. If they can't, keep to the simplest things in the world, then the ref should call them. They shouldn't be telling them what to do. Call them. If you make a mistake, you get paid for it, and they'll stop making that mistake.
Right.
So yeah,
so
that's right. I was big play.
yeah, it would really turn the game, to be honest with you, because they had 7
Agreed.
unanswered points at Cheshire at that point to tie the game at 26 points apiece, and then they ended the quarter with a couple of jack threes, and as you say, from being 8 down in the first quarter, they were 8 up at half time.
They just had more swagger than Caledonia. You could see Caledonia with the balloon deflating. Basically, I thought from the second quarter onwards, everything became hard for them. Their offense kind of struggled. Gareth had to play Pat Whelan the whole second half again because he hasn't, given the amount of depth that they've got. They've got 12 players suited up, and none of them is Johnny Bunyan. So they've got, and yet Pat Whelan's playing the whole second half, and that can't be good. Cheshire, it's difficult to talk about Cheshire much because they're pretty much the same when you see them week in, week out now. Rideau is a little bit up and down, but he was excellent in this game. He was kind of the leader, and his hands were everywhere. And then they have this thing where basically towards the end of the third quarter, Rye, who's let the game come to him, he then generally, virtually in 4 or 5 games since he's come back from injury, that's the point he looks to take over. You actually see it. There's almost a switch whereby he's okay, now it's me. And that's going to catch teams out before they get used to it.
Yeah.
Because you're having to play a whole different way. You make the point, might not be on the floor. Suddenly you've got these athletic guys in the corner. You've got Rye, who's pro.
In the fourth quarter tonight, Rideau barely played until.
Absolutely, because they're getting Kristen and Stevens and Jack on the wings, and they're playing off Ryan because Rye's a good enough passer. And when they kind of, I can't remember enough about this game now, but it didn't get, from my memory, it didn't get close.
But there was a little bit. So there was an 11-2 run that made it 49-61 in the third quarter. They got it back to 4 before the end of the quarter, but then Kristen 3 ended the third quarter. Stephen hit 1 to start the fourth quarter. They had a 12-1 run to push it out to 15. It was still 15 with 5 to play. And it was at that point that I was thinking, oh, this is about done, because I was doing EuroLeague on Friday, so I was watching this one back, and I was ready to bang the button forward to just get to the end, and then suddenly Whelan onwards to Bowes all hit threes, 11-2. They got it to 81-85, and they did actually get a stop. But then Rideau with a steal, Jack with the run back and 81-88, and it was comfortable from there.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, that's right. You remind me. My mind was, I was thinking fake comeback because they made shots, but they never quite got to that point whereby the vibe was right. The vibe was awful. Gareth was as stony-faced as you could imagine. The energy of the Cheshire team was far greater. And I think I remember the play when they turned it over in the end. Rideau, they made that play, and that was the game. I just, you just felt that they were immediately placed on the spiral watch with that game, because as I say, you've got Kyle Johnson's a veteran; he's playing 4 minutes. You've got Trent Buttrick really, really struggling. You've got Jovicic really, really struggling and not getting in the game in the second half. That means you've got discontented players. That means you've got a coach who's trying to find a way of getting through to them to either improve their performance or to say, you're not going to play. Which way is it going to be? Because ultimately, if the fans don't care that everybody gets 20 minutes, everybody's high-fiving or kumbaya, and nobody gives a toss. It's all about what's the score at the end of the day and how are you going to win. And sometimes you need to play less players to win. So I just thought the whole vibe of the Caledonia team was off in this game. They looked like they were going through some internal strife, and that happens at times in the season. That does happen. We've got 12, 13 professional basketball players with diverging objectives. who are all wanting the team to succeed, but they're all wanting themselves to succeed as well as part of that. You know, and some are in different countries for the first time, and you know,
and some are in different countries at a time playing on a Wednesday and a Friday when everybody in their family is eating turkey and
pumpkin
pie on Thursday, sort of thing. So there is.
I've heard enough about pumpkin pie this week, Dan.
Sorry.
I don't need it anymore.
So DeBose, 21 points, 3 of 4 from 3, 9 assists. Ali Hodgic, 14 points. My mum made pumpkin pie, actually. I'm not a big fan. Ali Hodgic, 14 points. No, obviously I would be a fan of my mum's pumpkin pie. It's pumpkin pie in general.
That's great. You know, we're a bit more off the wall here.
Yeah.
You know,
and I would just like to set the record straight. Set the record straight, because I didn't mention my mum makes a really good banana bread. When banana bread has been offered to me, I should have made that explicitly clear. Ali Hodgic, not that I've been told off. Not that I've been told off about that.
Here's the thing, right? I'm far happier to believe nice things about your mum than I am about just about anybody else.
Ali Hodgic, 14 points and 11 rebounds. There are 3 guys on 12. 17 turnovers, which was turned into 18 points. Jack, 19 points. Rideau, 15 points, 9 assists, 5 steals. Stevens, 13 points and 3 steals. And again, the old plus minus on the bench and on the starters was notable again in this game.
Yeah. You need production.
Yeah, you do. Let's go to the probably the wildest game of the weekend, certainly the wildest finish. Manchester Giants 91, Plymouth City Patriots 90. I'm looking forward to this, judging by your face. Obviously, Faulkner's still out for Plymouth. Dusha knocks down a 3 on the first play. Plymouth come flying out the blocks. They are 20-2 up inside 4 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, I know you did a fairly iconic kind of commentary last year in Glasgow, and you got a T-shirt of it, but I really think the Manchester guys should be giving Drew Lasker a "he's missed it" T-shirt. Well, he missed it. But you know, for the good and the bad, there's a couple of things. There's a lot of noise circulating around Manchester at the minute about investors and pop stars and you know, and modern day music legends and all this stuff, which we're waiting all curiously to see. You can Google it, guys, if you want, but it's generally related to a male duck, as I understand. I don't know anything personally. I've got no information. I'm just repeating what's out there, which isn't really much good for a podcast. I appreciate, because we're meant to be full of individual thoughts. But anyway, so the reason I raise it is it creates an interesting dynamic in relation to the team. Because if there's a likely new owner coming in, and that new owner happens to be, you know, happens to have a wad of cash, they're likely to want to come in to obtain that wad of cash. Sorry, excuse me. Turn that off. They're likely to want to come in and obtain that wad of cash and use it. And that means that the team should be under some pressure. And that means you'd have thought you'd got a fast start. And you got a 20-2 obliteration in the first 2 minutes by a team that has been playing better basketball and did have a rejuvenated LVC Dusha, who seemed to have been kind of handed the keys, if I can put it that way, and seemed to be playing better as a result. But nevertheless, Manchester's start was abominable. Their shot selection, their defense, everything. They did thankfully call a timeout, unlike the game against Cheshire, where they didn't. And then, unfortunately, Plymouth showed their frailty with their bench as well. They struggled to start to continue to defend. When Manchester actually started running some stuff and actually getting the ball where it needed to go, and not just jacking stuff up, they were able to score. And Plymouth did miss Faulkner, I think. I mean, Faulkner's obviously a polarizing player because he does things that help and he does things that hurt. But they're not, in BBL, in British Basketball League terms this season, they're not overly talented. You know, and that one extra bit of talent, you know, really, I think, would have helped them. So, yeah, so then it became a bit of an up and down game, with both teams playing, you know, doing okay, playing reasonably well. But, you know, Plymouth didn't really maximise the advantage they got at the beginning of the game.
No, they didn't go. Well, Manchester had it down to 6 before the end of the quarter. A
Yeah,
9-0 run made it 42-45 just before halftime. Plymouth got it back out to 10, but then an 11-0 run late in the third by Manchester had them 64-63 ahead. But right at that point, Anderson picked up his 4th foul on a tight charge block
yeah,
call at mid-court. So obviously he only sits down when he's in foul trouble or he's got a cut on his finger.
yeah.
So that didn't help Manchester at that point, at a point at which they were having a bit of run. Let's get to the end because the fun and games
Yeah.
is at the end.
Just on that, though, the rule on the half court thing is you have to give the player time to turn and take a step. That's the rule, as I understand it. So it looks like a charge because the guy catches the ball and hits him, but he has to have time to catch the ball, turn. I think he has to have time to take a step. And I don't think he did. So I actually thought that was a decent call.
Two, yeah, 2:20 to go, tied at 84-84. So Anderson down the lane with the tough finish puts Manchester ahead by 2. Dusha, top of the key, knocks down a 3, 147 to go, 86-87. So that's all just normal stuff, and then it gets a bit wilder as it goes.
You have it. 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 Yeah.
So Levi blocks a shot, 127 to go. And then on the inbound, Levi called for a foul late in the shot clock against Anderson. Not a great foul, as I recall. Anderson goes 1 for 2 from the free throw line, 87-87. Green misses an open 3. Lee misses, Lee scores from 12 feet, sorry, 53. It was a nice shot. Very William Lee looking shot, 87-89. Timeout, no advance. Taylor Johnson right down the middle. Not great defense, to be fair. 89-89. And then 15 and a half seconds to go. There's a broken play. Lewis drives. He's fouled by Green. He goes to the line. He makes them both 91-89. He is a perfect 9 for 9 from the free throw line at that stage. Timeout advance. Johnson drives. Lawton from the weak side blocks it, but the ball's bobbling about on the floor. Nobody can quite got it. Eventually, Johnson gets it.
Rebound gets knocked from behind, doesn't he?
Yeah, gets fouled. He goes to the line. Normally an excellent free throw shooter. 6.2 seconds to go. Misses the first, makes the second. So it's 91-90 the score. So obviously they've got a foul and hope here. So they fouled Nicholas Lewis, 2 free throws. He hasn't missed one in the game. He misses both of them, which is suboptimal, but you're still up 1. All you have to do is defend the play. Atwood gets the rebound. Dusha is all on his own down court, and Atwood just tosses it over the defense to LVC Dusha.
Atwood, to his credit, makes a play. He has to get the rebound. He has to have the wherewithal and presence of mind to look up. He has to pick the right pass. And I mean, what Manchester are doing is just beyond any degree of credibility. You've got 3 coaches. You've got the whole bench. The last, you're screaming. You're screaming. Stand next to your man. Who's got him? And it wasn't that nobody. He was just behind the defense. It was that. No, Walsh was actually sprinting back to get him. No one actually seemed to be deputed to guard him from what we saw on the camera.
No.
But
why is there nobody
unless maybe he back cut somebody, maybe. But even then, Walsh was so far behind him, he must have been totally.
But why is nobody back?
That's the point, yeah.
There should just be somebody there anyway. Like, even if you're not guarding him, there should be somebody there.
Yeah, you don't need 2 guys on the line, do you, unless you come from offensive rebound in the game.
But even if you do, there's still another 3 guys somewhere.
Yeah,
why are they all in the halfway line? Yeah.
Well, we always used to say, basically, stand next to your man. In a situation like that, when we've got free throws, in order to avoid any degree of difficulty or understanding with the players as to mix mismatches or who you got, stand next to your man at the foul shot. If they're rebounding, stand next to them. Yeah. If the shooter's getting the 3rd rebounder and the other 2 guys, you stood right next to him, there is no doubt who you are guarding. They had a lot of doubt. So Atwood made a great play, and Dusha, I think, thought Walsh probably couldn't believe how open he was, and he tried to put it high off the glass because he thought Walsh was close to blocking it. And if you look at the, I'm afraid if you look at the slow motion, he slowed it down. Walsh was nowhere near blocking it.
No.
You know, he could have laid up normally.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I think it's kind of a situation whereby he was surprised he was that open.
Yeah.
Kind of a paragon, kind of a bit of a thing for Plymouth season, really. I mean, you know, they've been in quite a few games now. They lost the game against Surrey on the dodgy foul call. They've lost that game, which they really should have won. But it's tough to be on the road in this league, particularly when you're at the bottom. They've dropped one tonight as well. And they are better. They're certainly more competitive, but they'll not know quite how competitive they are until Fulton comes back.
Yeah.
Because he's going to come back, he's going to interfere with their vibe, he's going to increase their talent level. So the vibe might go down, the talent level might go up. And how do they find the happy medium? And because they played tonight and they looked absolutely out on their feet, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, that's a crushing way to lose, isn't it? You've got an open layup to win, and
well, also you got Taylor Johnson missing a foul shot.
Yeah,
you know,
it
comes down. You got to make your foul shots at the end of a game. You got to make plays at the end of the game. You know that's what these players are there for. That's what you're paid for. And all these guys have played multiple years of basketball, and they've all been the best player on their teams, and they've all had the ball in their hands at the end of the game. But pressure does funny things.
Yeah. Reading that all out, it doesn't quite seem as wild as I was watching it on Saturday morning.
Well, it was.
Yeah.
No, it was weird.
So Manchester come away with a win that could easily have been a loss. Lewis, as I say, 9 for 11 from free throws, 20 points. Lee, 18 points, 11 rebounds. Anderson, 14. Johnson, 28 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 8 fouls drawn. Wiley, 17 points. Dusha, it was 3 of 7, I think, from behind the arc, and he was it 2 of 28 going in. So hopefully that's turning a corner for him.
14%.
5 assists as well, and 9 offensive rebounds for Levi. I meant to look up when the last time somebody had 9 offensive rebounds was, but I forgot. So apologies for that. I could have got away with that by not saying that out loud, couldn't I? So let's go to Saturday. Surrey Scorchers 87, Newcastle Eagles 100. Trading scores early on. Gooden is obviously still out. He was listed on the stats.
What do you think? What do you think Plymouth would give for a bit of McGill at the moment?
Yeah. I think there's a few teams would give a lot for McGill at the moment, the way he's playing. Trading scores earlier. I was watching this game, and I'm now of the view that if you're not down by 12 at Surrey Sports Park after 8 minutes, then you're well on top in the game.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, I get what you're saying. Surrey came out and played. I thought really came out full of pep. They have the rest advantage over Newcastle with the schedule that the Eagles have had, and also they had a lot of shooters on the court. And there's a few things which impacted this game. It was quite an interesting game to watch, I thought, because it kind of was a bit of a microcosm of where the two teams are just at this point. They may not be there in 3 weeks' time, but where they are at this point. And the first thing was, Surrey with Jordan Hunt looked like a pretty solid team.
Yeah.
Offensively anyway. I mean, defense. I mean, Hunt helps them defensively. I'm not sure how much, but certainly they look like they had an idea where the ball was going. They can bring Lawrence off the bench, who is possibly the best point guard in the league, coming off the bench when he's healthy, certainly offensively. And they had an idea of the way they're playing. They know they're going to shoot a lot of threes. Josh Steele's knocking down threes. Cooper is obviously lights out. As I said, he's JJ Redick. And they look better than I think they probably have for best part of 2 years, I would say. Certainly better than any time they were last year, no question. Newcastle, interesting. I mean, the interesting thing with Newcastle was obviously that their schedule's been crazy. They've had 7 games in 18 days. They've been at Latvia, Plymouth, London, Glasgow, Surrey, whatever, and played a couple of home games in the meantime. But we saw a bit of Spencer for the first time. Which is a thing for them going forward, because ultimately you're going to need your whole roster. And Neighbour only played 3 minutes at London, didn't play in this game, so one assumes he's carrying some form of injury. And Spencer really was quite impressive as well, because he was able, not only did he shoot the ball well, he made good passes off the dribble, and he seemed to play defense. So you can probably understand why they've kept a hold of him, even though he hasn't played for a while. But I thought the game changed when Hunt went down. I thought Surrey were, at that point of the game, Surrey were going to win a scoring race. I thought it was going to be 99 and 98 at Surrey Sports Park, and something stupid was going to happen, with like Alici making a 3 to tie on the buzzer. Or Quincy throwing one over his shoulder, and
the ghosts of Sports Park past.
Yeah. You just felt it just had that type of vibe on the game. Yeah. Hunt went down. That really impacted Surrey.
So for those who didn't see it, he kind of his legs slipped basically, and he did the splits. Not too dissimilar to Lucas at Bristol there a couple of weeks ago in terms of, and by the looks of it, a very similar sort of injury, because he was out in their second game.
Yeah, so that impacted them. Then I thought in the end of the second quarter, when it was quite tight, I thought Lloyd went to he had Parkinson in the game for 2 minutes, which I don't think did him any good, and I don't think it did Surrey any good, because Newcastle were able to go on a run, and I think he missed he's not doing he's not in the rhythm that Cooper's in. And so suddenly what became a 2-point, Bailey might have been in the game as well. What became a 2-point game became a 9-point game.
So it was 38-39 with 3 minutes to go. Eagles finished 10-2 to the half to lead 40.
And I thought that was critical. I thought that was really critical, because what it meant was Newcastle had a bit of a cushion to deal with Surrey's inevitable beginning of the third quarter. Here we go, guys, we're behind, but we can come back. That's exactly what happened. As an aside, I didn't think the refereeing in this game, from what I could see on the TV, was very good. You guys pointed out there were at least 2. There was one charge which had never been a charge. There was one with Johnson, which I couldn't quite see whether his heel was on the line or not. And there was a time when Johnson tipped the ball from out of bounds, which were pretty straightforward plays. There were a couple of calls at the other end as well. Once where, the ball was tipped out and Darius is standing there saying, never touched it, and the ref comes from all the way down the far side of the court to overrule, which was like, really, what? And then there was a point in the game in the third quarter, which brings me back to my governance point, whereby I'm pretty sure, having looked at the pictures and seen what I've seen, that if you remember, there was a question whether the shot clock should be reset. Justin Robinson threw a shot up and it hit the rim, and the shot clock was on 4. It didn't reset. And so Lloyd saying reset, and Justin saying it hit the rim, and the refs go over at the table, and the refs come back, and it's still 4 seconds. And then about 30 seconds later, 40 seconds later, the refs go back to the table, and suddenly it becomes 14 seconds. So they get to the right call. I want to know if somebody's watching the video. I want to know if someone's got YouTube on, because I can't see anything that happened between the first time that they said it stays at 4 and the second time.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't
and the
know.
second time when they changed, I don't know either. And this is about the governance thing, about the IRS and all this stuff. I can't complain about the right call being reached.
Yeah.
Right? You can't complain about that. But there was a situation at the Leicester-Manchester game where Manchester got 3 points they should not have got.
Yeah.
Which you guys showed on the TV at the end, which no one could look at your pictures, which they could have looked at 10 seconds later and waved it off. But it's not allowed. Now, I have the strongest of suspicions that was checked, just on what I saw. And you also see Mark talking to Dave Griffin as well about it on the picture. You actually see just before you go to a timeout, and that's what Mark is saying. I'm gesturing at the table. I'm certain that's what Mark is saying, because otherwise he's got no reason to complain. So anyway, so that's a governance thing as well. I'd be interested to know what the answers are to that. What is permitted, what is not permitted, because in logically, you get to the right call, everybody's happy. If that creates inconsistencies around the league, that's a major problem. Well, so they need to get a hand.
That's not permitted. The reality.
Not permitted, yeah. Well, I get that.
So
It's
if
not
it
permitted.
happened, it's not.
But
It's
you
not
know,
right.
it happened. Now, so then anyway, what then happened was Surrey came out, went on a run, and having went on a run, Ricky McGill woke up
Yeah,
and
went
basically
wild. Basically,
played out of his mind.
yeah, 5 threes in
He
four.
did a McFoley.
Yeah, yeah, he did. Yeah.
He
Five
did a
threes.
McFoley from last year. What I will
Yeah,
say about, yeah, go on.
5 threes in
Yeah,
4 minutes.
yeah. But what I was going to say about it was, Surrey played a lot of zone in this game.
Mm.
A lot of 3-2 zone in this game. And the advantage of a 3-2 zone is that it can kind of stuff up the opposition. It can do. And it takes them out of their rhythm. But the disadvantage is that the first 2 of those threes, Ricky McGill got with his feet set, stepping into rhythm 3-point shots.
Yeah.
And the problem is when you and we've seen it before with him in the league, last at Plymouth and a couple of times now at Newcastle, because he dropped 36 on Bristol and he had 30 on someone else on the Friday night. If you let him get into a rhythm, that rhythm, the problem with the zone is it lets you get into a rhythm. You get him into a rhythm, and suddenly he's making step backs, he's making forward shot, whatever. And he basically provided the separation with a little bit of help from Austin, some excellent offensive rebounding from Del Pesh, and Newcastle started to defend the 3-point line a bit better, and Surrey just couldn't keep making enough shots.
They just about hung on to them in the third quarter, despite those threes, 62-70. But then it was an 11-0 run, which was more threes from McGill and Johnson, and Newcastle was 70 in the fourth quarter, and Newcastle was 78-97 up, and the game was done.
Yeah, it's. I'm trying to figure out how good Newcastle are without getting my hopes up too much. But all they're doing at the moment is beating teams that are in front of them. The question, obviously, their schedule has been kind of soft in relation to the teams they've been playing. They've been playing teams at the bottom of the league in undermanned London. But there's a good vibe about them.
Yeah.
There really is. They seem to be enjoying each other's company. They played 7 games in 18 days in 5 different cities, and they've won them all. So I think they've got a bit of a kind of a slowdown in their schedule, maybe 1 game this week and 1 game next week. So it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of keep that degree of intensity. With Surrey, I think they have the chance to be really good, but you can't have, against these teams in the BBL now, you can't have wasted minutes. You can't have lineups going quiet for 3 or 4 minutes. You've got to be on it all the time, because most teams in the British Basketball League are at least 8 deep and 9 deep, and if you're on the court, you're going to have to be able to produce, and that kind of impacted them with Hunt. They had Jameson, but Jameson's different than Hunt. You saw the way that Bo was guarding Jameson.
And the problem is you can't play with Jameson for 40 minutes, so you have to do something else. And Hunt was the ideal.
They go small. I mean, they go really small, bring Theo on, do that. But Hunt or Theo or Bailey, but those two provide different issues. Theo defensively, Bailey offensively, and you also, you're really good with spacing. Surrey's really good with spacing. They've got with Cooper and Steele and Lawrence and Robinson, and then Wang, who can create if he doesn't turn the ball over. That's a lineup whereby you're going to have to guard them. And you have to guard them at the 3-point line, and sometimes just normal guarding isn't going to do it. But what they give up with those lineups is they give up size and they give up physicality defensively. And that's ultimately what they couldn't stop Newcastle in this game enough to do that. And Newcastle are one of the better offensive talented teams in the league, so Surrey might not have that problem against other teams. But even so, Hunt was a big miss, I thought.
Yeah, agreed. Cooper 4 of 8 for 3 for 21 points. Steele 16.7 assists. Mohammed 11. They were 13 of 32 from 3. McGill 13 points, 11 of 13 shooting, including 6 of 8 from 3-point range, 6 rebounds, 8 assists, 4 steals, 41 on the index, which is the highest this season. Austin 14 points, 6 of 8, and Green 13 points. And Dave, you sent me a message, and you said to me, Eagles have won 7 games in 18 days, including Europe. Would be interesting to know how often this has happened. Your guess was not that many.
Yeah, but it's probably thousands.
It's it's a lot more than
Really,
a few.
really
It's certainly more than I thought would be the case, given that you
undefeated
thought he'd
games
played that
or
many. No, yes, there are some. Yes, undefeated. Yes. So the most I can find is 9.
that's all right.
Livingston won on the 4th, 7th, 10th, 12th, 14th, 16th, 18th, 20th, and 21st of February 1988.
That's pretty impressive.
Incidentally, they played on the 30th of January and the 25th of February as well, but they lost those two either side. Manchester
That
won.
month of February has never been forgotten in Livingston. You went to
No,
Livingston
it is.
Centre,
Yeah,
there's
they
a
still
poster
talk
of
about it on the
February
streets of
1988.
Livingston. Manchester, old Manchester, won 11 games in 24 days,
Wow.
which included 2 sets of 9s in January, between January 27 and Feb 20th. I've not written the year down. I think it was 1999. It could have been 98. Yeah, I think it was Nurse. Yeah, the recent ones, Lions won 8 in 18 days in October, Dave.
This year?
This year,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
And in April 21, Leicester did it in 2015 and 2013. Depending on when you want to start or finish, January, February 2006, Eagles had 2 runs of 8 wins in 18 days. And there were also some 7s for Newcastle in 2010 and
They
1998.
played 3 games in 3 days at one time. I think they played a
Mm,
home game, then they went to Brighton and then
mm.
Plymouth and Brighton on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because that was the Commonwealth Games season, and they wanted to get all their games in before the players went to the Commonwealth Games. Because Bridgie and Fab.
But what your rather excellent question threw up was
Thank you.
that I found I had Manchester down as winning 2 games on the 26th of December, 1998, which was given one was double overtime, seemed a bit of a
That
challenge.
would be tricky, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
but I managed to find an article on the independent.co.uk that put them in the order for me. So they played on the 26th and the 27th of December, and
I
went to
will
double
I will
overtime
sleep
in one of them.
soundly. I
Good.
will sleep soundly this evening, knowing that your records have been correct. Well, at least
Corrected.
one of the multitude of errors, no doubt, hidden in those records have been
Yeah.
due to my
Presumably we presumably doff our cap to Richard Taylor, who undoubtedly would have written the Independent article in 1998, but his name wasn't attributed to it, unfortunately.
Well, that's really quite interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting. It's
So,
not really, is it? But I mean, it's interesting.
who it is to you and I, Dave. Everybody else has switched off or skipped forward.
Great stuff.
So Leicester Riders 94, Manchester Giants 79. Obviously, they've got Session Russell in as the one replacement thus far.
Interesting. You know where Russell came from?
Where he was in Germany at the start of the season.
He's in Germany playing for Bochum and Pro A. And do you know who replaced him? This is how small British basketball is.
I didn't look that far into it. No, who replaced him?
David Cohn.
Oh, really? Oh, there we go.
There you go. So yeah, I was checking him out. I was checking them. So oh, right, okay. Wow, there you go. So Russell's come in, and I'm sure they've got a couple. They'll have at least one more coming. I would guess they've got lots of American spots left over, but they need to get the right guy. But we've talked about it on this before. Addition by subtraction is genuinely a thing. It absolutely is a thing, because there's only so many minutes to go around. And if you have and you're not trying to share those minutes around, you're not trying to keep everybody happy. If you have players that you trust and players that are pros and players that are going to do what they want, then you have less wasted minutes or less ineffective minutes. And I thought, Rob sent out a couple of kind of pointed shots pre-game. These guys have been entirely professional all week, that type of stuff, which is saying stuff. It's saying stuff by not saying stuff. Impactfully, So, and that is, ultimately that's Leicester's job. That's Leicester's, and it's probably a good week for them to do it, because them having the one game Manchester on the back of a double header, it's probably the friendliest week you're going to have in the British Basketball League this season. So Leicester came out, like a rejuvenated bunch who'd, kind of exorcised some demons, insofar as, their group chemistry, etc. And Manchester came out like a team that was really happy they'd won last night, but weren't really bothered about winning tonight.
Walker, Thomas, and
I'm afraid,
Law all hitting threes. Manchester's defense certainly helping Leicester out to an 18-8 lead.
yeah, defense and their offense. I mean, I was on Twitter about this game a little bit because, I can think of a lot of ways to dig yourself out of a BBL losing streak. But, having Nick Lewis running the point for 30 minutes a game is not one of them. And it's not because Nick Lewis can't play. It's because Nick Lewis is a scorer. He is an out-and-out scorer. And, I did I checked up, again, I tweeted this out, 183 shots and 42 assists. In this game, 17 shots and 2 assists. And what you're seeing is a reduction in the production of everybody else, because the ball isn't going through their hands as much. And on top of that, then you're asking all those guys to play defense as well, and they're not touching the ball as much. And you've got new owners looking at them all thinking, oh, what about you? What about you? And I just thought, the lineup that they've gone with Lewis and Jamel and Harris to start with. Harris missed they missed a layup every minute of the first 5 minutes of this game, Manchester. Yeah. Some of them actually uncontested at the rim. Pros don't miss those layups just because they're tired. They miss those layups because their head's not where it needs to be. Jalen Harris does not miss that layup in their fast break where someone's, I think, what was it? He should have gone with his right. He should have just laid it in. It's a layup. I could make a layup. You could make that layup. It's because his head ain't right where his head is not on the floor where it needs to be. And there's a couple more like that. And the kind of the guys who've kind of been marginalized aren't going to play as hard as a result. And I think they're better when Bossier comes in. I'm not sure Bossier is a British Basketball League level starting point guard at the level of some of the point guards in the league at the moment, but he's young and he runs a team like a point guard. And and their offense in this game, I thought, pretty much was pretty average from the beginning, and then it degenerated. It degenerated into, basically everything should be running through William Lee. It should be 1-4 screening rules. Let William Lee make decisions when he's on the court. Let other guys work off William Lee because he stretches the defense out. If you're going to play Robert gets the ball down the post a little bit, but otherwise he's screen and roll. Lawton comes in, he's your 5-man, gives you energy. Everybody else spaces the court. That's tough, but the ball has to move, and the ball didn't move. So Leicester were really good, certainly first half. Thomas is looking better and better, and clearly, sometimes freeing players from other influences can improve them. He says obliquely. So and Thomas and Holmes, certainly from what we've seen, have been the most mature of the Leicester Americans this year anyway, and the other three are now gone. But he was really he looked, I'm not sure how he wasn't quite player of the game, but he like 17 points on 7 shots or something, and just looked comfortable. And obviously you've got more minutes of Connor, and generally more Connor, more chance of winning. Connor's not playing 2 or 3 minutes here or there. Connor's invested. Connor shoots 4 or 7 from the 3-point line. Manchester don't know who Connor is. He's not been here long enough, obviously. And you know what I mean?
He's not high enough up in the all-time 3-point shooting list. He's only 19. There's 18 guys in the history of the game that have shot better than him. We don't need to worry about him.
And then at the beginning of the third quarter, when they've got a shot at making a run, maybe the only chance they've got is a 15 down third quarter. Need to make a run. The very first play of the third quarter, I think Nick Lewis just leaves TJ Law. He's matched up with TJ Law in the corner for some reason. Just ignores him, just runs to the ball, a crazy double team off the first pass. First pass goes to Law. Law knocks down a 3. And Lewis puts his hand up to the coach. It's like, I'm doing more than putting my hand up. It's just incredible. It was just incredibly ill-disciplined for what they needed. They don't have the discipline about them that they need at the moment to make the right plays. Law was very good. Law played 32 minutes, so I think Law's going to be a staple of them going forward. I think he likes his solidity. And interestingly, it was Holmes who started at the 2, so they're playing Holmes more at the 2 than the 3 because he doesn't have to play the 3 anymore because he hasn't got all these guards to jam into the team. So Holmes can now be your big 2 guard. who can cause some matchup problems. And if his shooting stroke holds up, which it looks like it will, he could cause some problems there. The one issue for Leicester, I think, on what they've got out there at the moment is probably going to be how much are they going to get out of Walker and Idowu? Because Walker's never been more than kind of an 18 or a 19 minute a game guy, even at his peak. And Idowu's a bit small for the 5, although he can play the small ball 5. So, do they need another big guy? But then you've got 3 centres, or to play in, and that doesn't generally work either. That's probably going to be the only thing I can see an issue with. But defensively, they're so much better. They've got Kimball and Connor defending the ball. You've got Lawler and Holmes defending the wings. You haven't got to worry about these flaky guys just running off the wrong guy or too busy looking for fights and stuff. They're going to be so much better.
Thomas, 6 of 7 shooting for 17 points. Yeah, basically, the bit I didn't give you was Holmes and Washington hitting threes, 32-11 after a few seconds of the second quarter, and that was, as you say, basically that. Mackenzie, 16.6 assists. Law, 16 points, 8 rebounds, 14 of 30 for 3. Basically, there were 6 guys you could have picked for player of the game. I think they were relatively interchangeable in terms of numbers.
Well, in that case, you pick the guy who started the ball rolling. That was Thomas. Always, the guy who steps up first is always the one who gets it, because his play leads to everybody else's play. You see what I mean?
Or the guy who's come into the starting 5 who hadn't started.
But he picked, but his points went when the game were on the line. His points when the game's tight, the guy who takes over is the guy in the beginning of the game. The guy who sets the tone. In a blowout, it should be the guy who sets the tone, not the guy who picks up.
My thing with Thomas was he should have played more minutes. He got in foul trouble.
Foul trouble. That's true. I'll give you that. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah. Lewis 22, Lee 12, 9 rebounds, and Walsh 11. So let's come to Sunday. Sheffield Sharks 88, Bristol Flyers 78. Delpesh was back, first game of the season for him, but no Adekoya. So 1 in, 1 out. And Ramsey, a couple of early fouls as well, when he's been playing really well for Sheffield.
First minute well.
Yes, in Glasgow, yes. You know what? For some reason, I had in my head that he played a few minutes last week, but did he? Were these his first few minutes? Sorry. So Bristol went on a 12-3 run and led early on 17-31 in the second quarter.
Yeah, I mean, this game is, again, it's kind of unfortunately a repeat complaint. There's not much you can do about it, but we've had a fair few scheduled games this weekend. And I know there's nothing that can be done about it now, because the season's fixtures are scheduled. But the games whereby teams have had substantial rest disadvantages are impactful, particularly when it's a better team playing against a team towards the bottom. So obviously the Leicester-Manchester one was significant. The Bristol Sheffield, this is the third time Sheffield played on Sundays. Sheffield ran into Newcastle on a difficult situation, beaten by 30, did what they're meant to do. They ran into Glasgow at the same time when they played in Europe, Caledonia, and now they've run into Bristol as well. And going forwards, it's not like the NBA whereby you play 82 games and everybody has between 11 and 13 back-to-backs, so nobody really cares and everybody accepts it, I think we've got to do a better job of taking out the 24-hour back-to-backs. Now, it's not really an indication on Sheffield and Bristol, because obviously Bristol have played in Europe and they played Friday. Did they play Friday night?
No, they played Wednesday.
They played Wednesday.
They played Tuesday, in fact.
They played Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday. The game in Poland was on Tuesday.
And hang on, what was Rob talking about? They didn't play Friday, did they?
No, they didn't play Friday.
I'm talking rubbish. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I was wondering where you were going with that. I must admit.
I'm going rubbish. I'm talking rubbish because
you can't. I had the volume relatively. I was ambushed by cake by this stage.
Oh yeah, of course.
I had the volume relatively low at this stage. Didn't hear the commentary, but they didn't play on Friday. My thing is, if you play midweek in Europe, that's your fault for going into.
Of course Europe. It is. Yeah. Of course it is. Yeah. So no. Just rewind that and you cut that rubbish out.
Yeah.
Sorry, but there have been. I mean, there've been some back-to-backs which have been difficult, I think. but never, and obviously Cheshire playing Glasgow twice in 48 hours, which ain't great either. But this game, Bristol started off really well. Sheffield without Ramsey aren't really the same. You know, he is their point of attack defensively. He's a pest. His kind of perpetual motion keeps him moving. And it wasn't until Glasgow got into the game to give them that kind of impactful second guard, because Nixon couldn't really run the team without Ramsey, that they kind of righted the ship. Obviously, they also had to play Coke a lot, and that didn't actually harm them. And and maybe Coke has been a bit undercooked in previous games. It was 5 minutes of each quarter. And Bristol started off aggressively. They started off doing what they're meant to do. Green scored, but I thought they benefited from Sheffield being out of sync, as opposed to doing anything particularly different to what they normally do.
Ramsey and Glasgow with back-to-back threes in a 10-0 run, got it down to 4, 27-31. And then Glasgow had 8. Did he have 8? I've written 8 points. I don't think it was 8. I think it was 6 in the 8-3 finish that put them 44-40 ahead at halftime. And at that point, they had the momentum, even though it was only up 4. And it was at that point that I thought they're going to win this game from here.
Yeah, they also had the benefit of not knowing the scouting report on Rod Glasgow, because ultimately, Rob was all over it on the commentary, but Rod is a shooter and a pull-up shooter, and that's what he is. And to a certain degree, you actually guard him kind of similar to the way that you guard Deville Ramsey, whereas you can't be back on the screens, as he said. You've got to be up on the screen. You've got to be able to get over the top, so you can take them away from that kind of pull-up 15-foot, 17-foot jump shot or stand-alone catch and shoot three. And players don't believe this stuff until they see it. And obviously, they haven't seen Rodney Glasgow this season. So they won't have had any video of him, so coach wouldn't have been able to show anything, or even if they have, it'll be this guy's hardly played. We don't even know if he's going to play. So he's way down the bottom of our scouting report. And they got absolutely, hammered for that and didn't make kind of appropriate adjustments on the way either, which hurt them. But Sheffield wear you down. I mean, they've got a lot of bodies there now. And defensively, they wore Bristol down. Bristol, again, you make the point with Jackson. He does appear to be more of a European style point guard. He doesn't have a tremendous explosion, but he's very controlled in what he's doing. That's fine, but it's also tough if they're going to be pressurizing you 60, 70 feet up the court, or they're going to be getting in your face and being aggressive. And I thought he struggled a little bit. They didn't really get anything out of Samuel. Samuel's kind of dropped away the last few weeks when they've really needed him. He hasn't given them anything offensively. And I just thought by the end they looked fried. They look kind of done. And also my spy in the gym tells me that somebody's washed their kit with something that shouldn't have been washed with, because apparently it's very off-white.
I think that's the color.
Is it? All right.
Yeah, I think that is the color. That is because I remember seeing it earlier in the season and thinking that is that white, but it is. No, I think that is the color.
Or maybe it was early in the season. It was put in with the pink too.
Yeah. Nixon 2 threes and an 8 points in a 12-0 run to push them out to 16, 67, 51. To be fair, Bristol did get it down to 6, but a nice turnaround from Kipper Nichols. And then 2 Pipkin scores made it safe for Sheffield.
Yeah, no, they did come back, and they showed a lot of heart in coming back. I thought, they do play hard, and they did play hard in this game. They didn't quit in this game, and coach got them playing, when they could have kind of, hung their cleats up, as it were. But they're down on numbers. They really are. They got basically 7 senior players there. Then you've got Samuels and Adolfi, and it's fine in the British Basketball League. But you look around, it kind of isn't anymore. Not when they're playing the amount of games that they're playing. Not when they've, as you say, chosen to go into Europe. So they've struggled a bit. They've lost 3 in a row in the BBL. And there was someone on Twitter saying, "Oh well, most teams are only 8 deep." We're talking about the London thing about how their bench aren't great. And I'm looking around thinking, no, they're not. Virtually everyone's got 10 guys.
Well, it's one of those things. When I looked at the Leicester lineup before the game, I was like, "Wow, they look really thin now." Because obviously they're missing. They brought Russell in. I wasn't sure if he was even going to play because he'd only just come in, or how much he play. And I was like, they're going to have to play Nduku some minutes, and he obviously hasn't played yet, but it was noticeably jarring compared to everybody else.
Yeah, but they were like, they had basically
And Bristol's in a similar scenario, although obviously they had 2 players injured, but one of them's been replaced.
something replaced, and so
Yeah.
Johnson would be the other one, so the one American down. That would take, Samuels to 9 and Landolfi to 10, which you're probably fine with, because both have shown they can contribute in the BBL, so that's not necessarily a problem. But when they're 7, 8, when they're 8 and 9, and you're playing in Europe, and you played Friday, Saturday the week before, then the wear and tear on the bodies is going to hurt. And Sheffield have been sitting there waiting for them because they haven't had the game all week. So it's a game you'd expect Sheffield to win, but Sheffield are just being Sheffield. Now they've got Glasgow in the kind of re-indoctrinated into it, and Delpeche has come back. They're actually going to have some decisions to make in relation to minutes, because they've got a lot of players. Where's the Rock minutes going to come from? Where's Stewart's minutes going to come from? Every good thing begets a problem.
It does.
Basketball, every problem begets.
Wouldn't it be better if you only had 7 players?
It isn't until 3 of them get hurt, and then Forrest complaining that you're resting players when you shouldn't be. There's never a right answer. It's a constant juggle.
It is. Glasgow 17.6 of 9 shooting. Cook 15.7 rebounds. Pipkins 13.3 steals. Olliston 7 of 11 for 23 points, 4 assists. Green was 8 of 10 for 16 points and 8 rebounds. And Jacob had 14 points. So let's go to Plymouth City Patriots 63, Surrey Scorchers 65. Faulkner was obviously still out. Hunt with that hamstring injury on Saturday was missing, and so too Gooden, obviously. I missed the beginning of this because I was being ambushed with cake. I could only really watch one game.
Cooper didn't play either.
Oh, Cooper didn't play. Yes, I did notice that, and I was very sad to see he wasn't out there.
Fanboy stuff was gone.
So I kind of missed the beginning, but I've got to see on the live stats, Mohammed Steele, Lawrence getting some threes, Green getting some back the other way. It seemed like an even start to the game.
This game made my eyes hurt. I'm sorry, and to a certain degree, it's schedule based, because Plymouth have got back of a gutting defeat at Manchester at 3 o'clock in the morning on Saturday morning, so they've had no meaningful Saturday kind of preparation, or if they have, their hearts have been kind of pulled out of their stomachs. Not their stomachs, and then you've got Surrey, who've come off a 5 p.m. game. I'm
surprised you haven't gone for the Simpsons reference there, with Bart rewinds it back, and if you just look, you can see the exact moment. His heart breaks.
That's Ralph Wiggum, isn't it? Ralph and Lisa. Oh, it's wonderful.
I choose you, was it?
Yes, that's the one. Thank you, Dan. That's not bad, actually. But yeah, that's right. My favorite ever Simpsons line is the one where Homer's Homer's watching the TV, and Marge says, Homer, Maggie's walking. Homer says, "Are you recording it?" "Yes, I'll watch it later." That's too many. There's the one where the guy in the Smashing Pumpkins guy introduces himself and says, "Blah blah, Smashing Pumpkins," and Homer says something like Homer Simpson behaving badly or something. I don't know. This class. Anyway, moving on, digressing away from the Simpsons, which still a life lesson for everybody who's kind of over 30, I think. It was the teams. I think they were playing hard, but they were not good, and they knew each other as well, which didn't help. And it looked like a game which was the end, kind of a team that's played on Saturday against a team that played on Friday, and they're missing certain players. And I don't think Plymouth scored for about 4 minutes, and then Green came in. If Green hadn't made 5 threes in the first half, then this game would have gone down as literally one of the least notable games I think I can ever remember having to sit through. And also, to be fair, we had Jordan Taylor on the commentary, and Jordan Taylor actually came up with one of the better. The best part of the game was Jordan Taylor sometime in the fourth quarter asking Josh Bett if they're allowed if players can get fined for criticising the refs while broadcasting, which made me laugh out loud. I'll be honest, because that was that was about the highlight of the game for me, the whole bloody thing. And to be honest, listening to Taylor was a bit of an education. I was really impressed with kind of the level of detail and the knowledge that he gave to what was a fairly ugly game.
Well,
but yeah,
shall I just run through
the
bits in the
end,
end to get to the end? So,
we made 5-3 in the first half. That's all that happened.
So I turned on for the second couple of them where they got out to 28-21. And then Johnson hit a couple of threes. It's 41-34. This is in the third quarter, by the way. Robinson, 7 points to start a 19-3 run to put Surrey up 44-53. They had just one Dangakodo score in 6 minutes and 21 seconds. Plymouth in the third quarter. They were still up 8 with 5 to play, but Plymouth cut it down to 57-60 with 3 to go. And then it was pretty much up and down with no scores. There were turnovers. There were a few defensive plays as well, but there were.
I mean, Levi made a tremendous block near the end. And then
we're going to get to that. We'll get to that.
Sorry. Teams were playing hard, no question.
1:23 to go. Johnson, 2 free throws, 1 point game, 59-60. Johnson then stole the ball from Robinson, but then in transition gets called for a push off, 52.8 seconds to go. So the ball goes back the other way.
Yeah, I thought that was a good call. I don't think you can do what he did.
No,
I thought, there was enough there. I know JT wasn't that keen on it, but I thought, if I'm a ref, I'm calling that. I mean, he did exaggerate, no question, but there was a forearm.
Yeah. Agreed. And then this is the block. Levi Jameson looked like he had an easy score, and Levi a big play to block the shot.
Jameson, so that is just his Achilles heel, isn't it? Finishing around the rim. That has to be a basket. And that's the difference. If that's Mo Walker getting that ball, that's a basket. If that's Taj Green, he's dunking it. If that's any of the London guys, it's being dunked. And that's why it's hard at times to play Jameson at the end of games, because he's not a good foul shooter, and he doesn't finish around the rim as well as you would like him to. He gives you a lot in every other area. But Levi came back and made a great play, but that should have been a dunk.
24.7 seconds to go. Robinson forced a turnover. Wang and Mohammed run the floor for an alley-oop, 59-62.
That was LVC dribbling to his left. That was just a team that didn't know where they were going. I just thought it was a team that just didn't have any belief in themselves at all. That Plymouth, I mean, it's a bad turnover at that time in the situation. That time in the game, you want to be going to your bread and butter. So what am I doing? I'm thinking, well, we got a player throw the ball to Atwood inside. Okay. Or we're going to run a pick and roll with Dusha and Levi. Or we're going to get the ball to Taylor Johnson and clear out. But I don't think they knew what they were doing. I don't think they knew that pecking order wasn't there. And then they got that Wang got the alley-oop. And then they came out and they chucked up a pretty bad shot, really. I know it was green, but Jordan was right. You said you got to go to the rim, and I agree with them. I thought they looked like a team that was just fried, basically. And if it went in, it went in. If it didn't go in, well, so be it.
Well, it didn't go in. Surrey got the rebound. 12.9 seconds to go, and you think, well, if Wang makes one free throw here, the game is over, and nothing can get them back in it. Nothing except committing a foul immediately after missing the second free throw for no obvious reason.
It was, I mean, that was, it's a kind of a repeat thing, isn't it? We see watching all these games means that you do see a fair amount of dumb plays, and that sadly was one of them.
Yeah. So Wang missed the second free throw, fouls Johnson. So basically they only lost a second and a half. And then Johnson makes 2 free throws, 61-63. Timeout, advance the ball, 9.8 seconds to go. Dusha has to commit the foul. He fouls out as a result.
He doesn't. Here's the thing. He doesn't. I mean, I didn't get that either. I mean, Justin Robinson is the last guy in the whole league, that I would want on the foul line in that situation if I'm the opposition. The last guy. Right?
See?
Yeah, he's 22 of 22 this season.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm just asking the two players who are at the top end of the free throw all time, or will be when they get there. One of them is, one will be. Justin and Kimball. So yeah.
Yeah, but I'll put Justin just above Kimball simply because I've seen more. He's been around longer. Okay, but yeah, either way. Okay, I could have made the same thing.
It's 1A and 1B, to be fair, whichever way you put it. Yeah.
But Justin hasn't missed one this season. I mean, he doesn't shoot as many, but he hasn't missed one this season. And all they had to do was run him from the baseline up to catch the ball. Now, if I'm Plymouth at that point, I'm looking at I don't really want them to throw the ball to Andrew Lawrence either, but if they have to, it's going to Andrew Lawrence ahead of Justin Robinson. But what I'm doing is I'm taking the man who's guarding the ball on the inbounds off the inbounds, and I'm putting him on Justin, and I'm putting the second guy, Justin's guy, also on Justin. I'm taking Justin out that play, and I'm making them throw it to Andrew Lawrence or to Wang or whoever else is there, just anybody apart from him. And if Justin gets the ball, and so you run the play whereby Justin catches the ball, you let him catch it, then it's an immediate double team because you've got 10 seconds to see if you can try and force him into throwing it away, and maybe you get a run out and you win the game. But just fouling him, I thought that was defeatist. 9 seconds to go, you're down by 2. Oh, we'll let Justin Robinson catch the ball and we'll just foul him. I just thought that was like, we know we're ready to go. My view might be unfair, but that's what I thought.
Robinson duly makes said free throw, 61-65. Timeout, advance the ball. I'm assuming it was Green's fault for taking too long coming off the screen, but they took way too long to get the ball for Green to jack up another 3, which didn't go in. And then Johnson did get the rebound, put it back in with half a second, but that was not enough.
They need Faulkner back, and then they need to work out if they've got it. I mean, they're better than they were, but the league is better than it was. That's the problem. Every team is now better than it was 6 weeks ago. So the adjustments that they made 6 weeks ago in Plymouth to get better are at risk of being usurped and superseded by the adjustments that everybody else has made, which is involving them getting better. Green made 5 threes in the first half, missed 5 or 6 in the second half, So you can't rely on him simply getting hot to win you a game. Levi isn't going to score enough. He's going to give you all the other stuff. So Johnson's going to have really impactful games, Taylor Johnson, but he's shooting probably 44% from the field. So he's not demonstrated that he's kind of an efficient volume scorer. He's a volume scorer, but he's going to have to step up in his efficiency in relation to his numbers. And then they're going to have to get some substantial production from Dusha or Faulkner. And I'm not sure they've got it in them because I'm not sure they've got it in them in relation to the level of the rest of the league. That was a winnable game for them. Surrey played last night. Surrey were down 3 players, down Jordan Hunt, down Quentin Cooper. That's a big part of what they've been doing the last few weeks. And they couldn't get it done, and they held. Surrey didn't make many shots, and they still couldn't get it done. They only scored 63 points at home, so I kind of fear for them a little bit. Surrey, it will be health dependent, obviously, but they seem to be developing something of an identity as to the way they play, anyway. And they have 2 very, very experienced, very talented guards. The issue will be when Gooden comes back. What do they do with him? Only so many minutes.
Green, 24.6 of 12 he finished from 3-point range, 9 rebounds.
24 out of 63. It's, probably 40% of the points.
Johnson, 17 points and 6 rebounds. They were the only 2 in double figures. There were 11 of 30 from 2 and 10 of 33 from 3.
That's a game where I want more from Atwood. I want from Atwood. Atwood always been consistent. He's playing all these minutes. He's averaging 16, 17 a game. That's a game where at some point in time he has to take over, and he hasn't done it yet. And I'm beginning to wonder if he ever will.
Lawrence 13, Robinson 13, Steele. I've got 10 and 12, so I don't know which it is. 9 rebounds, 35% from the floor and 5 of 25 for 3, but you win the game.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's why Plymouth let one go.
Cheshire Phoenix 82, Caledonia Gladiators 92. Jack and White hitting 3s early on. Police are doing the same. Moore helped them into a 10 to 15 lead. I've got written down here.
Tell me, what happens to you nowadays when you headbutt somebody?
Yeah, I don't know about that because I would have thought 7 days have elapsed, but maybe it's
7 days have elapsed from last Saturday.
Yeah, that was my
Sunday. and we've heard nothing.
Mm.
And we had this last year, obviously, when Robertson went through an appeal and he got it for his thing with Leicester, and he managed to get penalty points for, I think, penalty points for what was basically a common assault, and nothing. Tumbleweed. This is another point on governance. You know, what's going on with discipline in the league? You know, at the very least, there should have been a statement out there saying that either he's appealed against the sanction, or there'll be an automatic sanction take place, or there will be no sanction take place. I suppose arguably if there's no sanction to take place, you don't need a statement, but everything else you do. And as we know, there will be a sanction, because there always has been, unless we've about it. But nobody knows, and there doesn't appear to be anybody at the wheel in relation to it, as to dealing with that type of thing. So you think, oh, why is Forrester whinging on about this? Let them all guys play and all this stuff. It's relevant because actions have repercussions, and repercussions are there within the rules. And what we need to know as fans, and I'm putting myself as a fan here because I don't know the answer, is what are those rules and what are those repercussions? You know what? You know, I mean, only last year he got suspended for a game for giving 200 Manchester fans a finger, if I remember right.
That's true.
You know, and
well, my thing about it is Harry Winks didn't play on Saturday because he's got 5 yellow cards this season, and I know that, so therefore I know he's not going to play. And you know, somebody got sent off, so he's going to get a 1-game ban because he got sent off for 2 yellow cards. So if it was a straight red, it would be 3. It would be 3-game ban.
There's a right to an appeal, but the bans kick in straight away.
Yeah,
you know, that's basically the way it works. Now, this is one of the kind of the things that, as I say, that there's a lot of stuff which is going on in relation to the basketball side of the league at the moment, which is being not swept under the carpet, but is being neglected. You know, the lack of an instant review system is neglectful. You're not convinced of anything else. If Manchester had beaten Leicester by 2, there would have been hell on, and quite right. The lack of disciplinary structure, the lack of rules in relation to the or information in disciplinary structure, the lack of rules in relation to what we talked about before, as to I've even forgotten what I talked about before, as to resting players, all that type of stuff. You know, the impression is that it's just not something that we are moving towards an entertainment-based organization, which really doesn't bother itself with these type of trivialities and fripperies. I might be wrong about that, but there might be stuff going on in the background, but we're hearing nothing. We're hearing tumbleweed. And I don't just put it on the league, actually. I think the clubs have to be more proactive about this. They've got a competition to protect. I think the coaches have to be more proactive about this. You know, they've got a...
Well, presumably, if there's an automatic ban, that would have been in Cheshire's interest, because whether it was automatic or automatic after 7 days, that was against Cheshire.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, and whether it be Cheshire's interest, but you know, the reality is that everybody benefits from clarity, and that's the problem. There is absolutely no clarity, and no statement, and no nothing, and everything's continuing as it happened. It might be that in 2 weeks' time we get a statement from the league saying that Prince Onwas has been banned for 1 game following a personal hearing, and that game will be some random game that they pick, depending upon the timing of the hearing panel. And that's not right. You know, the Premier League can do this within 2 days or 3 days. Everything's on video nowadays. It doesn't need 3 weeks for a disciplinary hearing to take place if he wants to appeal against a mandatory penalty. It can be done on Zoom on Wednesday. But as I say, we're kind of that, and the environment within the arenas, and I just think we're asleep at the wheel in relation to a lot of stuff that impacts the game, and that is impacting the competition. And obviously, I'm a purist. You're a purist. I'm not as fussed about the YouTube numbers, I'm afraid. I think the YouTube numbers will get better if we have a competition which has coherence and has a clear structure where everybody understands what the rules are about multi-club ownership, how everything is being sorted out. And at this point in time, we're not getting it, and they might just bundle through and no one cares. And we've always benefited in the British Basketball League from a degree of obscurity, which has meant that lots of things have been pushed under the carpet when when they wouldn't have really done the image of the game much good. We've benefited from that, you know. But if we want to be serious, well, if you want to be in a 24-hour news cycle, you want to make the intro, you want to be, you know, on ESPN Sports Center or whatever, you know, you got to take the rough with the smooth, and you've got to be absolutely ironclad in relation to your regulations and your rules. And we're seeing that with Everton Football Club at the moment. And no doubt we'll see it with Manchester City when the hammer comes down on them as well. That there are processes which have to be in place. And I just don't think, I don't see it. But anyway, right. That said, Onwas played very well. This was, I mean, Cheshire after the game put out the stick that in your documentary message, which I thought was brave, to be honest. Or as Sir Humphrey Appleby would say, courageous, you know, which was generally the word that the civil service used to and describe as batshit crazy. Because you played them on Sunday. You know, if you want to put that on social media after you played them on Sunday, that's fine. You probably don't see them for another 6 weeks. I wouldn't have suggested it'd be a good idea because, believe me, the players I was around would remember. But if you've beaten them twice in 2 days, you know, and you want to make a point about something that's gone on in the documentary before, that's fine to make it then, but don't do it halfway through with double header. Dear me. So with that, you know,
to be fair to them, there was a clip out, and I forget whether it was Caledonia or somebody related to Caledonia that put it out there with less than complimentary language about Cheshire in the week.
I know there was, which is why even better, you swallow it and you beat them again on Sunday, and then you do what you want. Right. That's it. I'm not talking about I'm not in any way kind of a killjoy who, you know, wants nothing but, you know, obviously I'm not quite at the level of Caleb Asprey in relation to his trash talking, but I'm not a killjoy either. But I'm talking, this is hard-hearted from the side of sport, you know, we want to win. You know, and bulletin board material is an absolute no-no. And that's bulletin board material, you know, it's unnecessarily provocative. It's basically challenging them. Right. Well, what do you expect from that when you come back? Well, firstly, Caledonia decided that they weren't going to play the guys who haven't been playing. Well, that helps them. Secondly, Caledonia decided that they were going to play zone and challenge Cheshire to have a sufficient structure in their offense to break that zone down and get good shots and knock them down. And they couldn't make enough of them. And they sped up their game. Because of the zone, there were too many one-pass offenses. Some shots they make, and everybody feels good, and then they miss two down. They miss the next two down, and suddenly you have 3 points off 3 offenses, which means that you're below your average, which means that Caledonia are winning. You know, if they make 2 threes out of 3, then you know, then Cheshire are winning. But if they make 3 out of 3, and make 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 4. Then Caledonia are absolutely winning because they're, you know, Cheshire's averaging like 1.12 points per possession. And they suckered them, I thought. I thought they really suckered them into it with that zone. And I think Cheshire, you know, it's tough because they won 5 in a row. So they're feeling really good about themselves. And players do tend to get a little bit confident when they've done that. And some of the little details go amiss. But, you know, the first 4 possessions of this game, Lucas Polizza got like 4 open shots. You know, and you're looking at the thing, and he made 2 of them again, which is, you know, 6 points in 4 possessions, 1.5. Caledonia's winning, and then you're thinking they're not really locked into this game, Cheshire, or maybe it's Caledonia who are coming out with a point to prove. And I thought the only thing that potentially cost Caledonia this game was their legs because of the Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. You know, apart from that, I thought they were in control of the game throughout, and they benefited from Clifton Moore in the second quarter, putting on an absolute clinic in relation to how the centre of a 2-3 zone.
So they would get a couple of shots ahead. Nick's pulled it back a little bit. 5 to play. It's a 1-point game, but Polizza and Moore gave them a 12-2 finish to lead 39-50 at halftime. Moore at halftime had 13 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, and an index rating of 26.
In 10 minutes, 17 seconds, because I checked that stat as well. In 10 minutes, he had that. And and in that zone, because he can rebound anything, because he rebounds out of his area, because he's got long arms and he's a deterrent to coming in the middle. The weaknesses of a zone is generally how do you rebound out of it? How, because the shots are often long shots, so you get long rebounds. Well, he cleaned the glass, so that zone worked, and Cheshire became shot happy a little bit in relation to the quality of the looks that they got. And Caledonia kind of continued it on, but also in that time, Buttrick played 3 minutes and Jovicic didn't play. So they weren't eating up those guys who were shooting 30% from the floor, weren't eating up those minutes. And that makes a difference.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Because someone comes in and shoots 1 of 5, if 2 guys come in and shoot one of 4, and that's 2 of 8, that's 8 possessions gone, which could have been shot by somebody, which could have been used by people who are being more efficient. And that can be 5 or 6 points, and 5 or 6 points can be the game.
Cheshire quickly got it back to 6 in the third quarter. Whelan and Paliza threes took it back out to 14, 46, 60. Start of the fourth quarter, Kristen knocking down some shots. Gladiators offense drying up. You were starting to worry about their legs. They were struggling to get any decent looks as well. They kind of got sort of stuck in a few late shot clock situations. 11-3 start. It's 73-76 at the media time.
Yeah, they kind of getting. I mean, he took Moore out because I think he turned the ball over a couple of times, throwing them when he's got the ball in the post. And if Moore catches the ball like 15, 17 feet away, if he's not from the post, from the basket, he isn't that good. He's not an Ali Hodzic type of facilitator. He's a guy who has to be around the rim where he can finish with his length. 8 feet in, he's really, really good. But Cheshire managed to push him out a bit. So Gareth came back with Ali Hodzic. And they have a habit when they're tired of kind of just throwing the ball down to him with like 6 seconds on the shot clock. And they generally don't get much out of it because, he's not necessarily under the basket. It's not part of a play. He's a good finisher when he's actually catches the ball in the paint. But if they just throw the ball to him in the post or he flares out for a 17-foot jump shot, that's not high percentage offense for them. And that happened a couple of times. And Rob's actually said in the commentary, will he come back with Moore? But he obviously doesn't trust Moore enough as much as he trusts Ali Hodzic. It's a thing about veterans and rookies again. So he stuck with Ali Hodzic. Cheshire made the run. Kristen made a few shots, but then missed a few shots. I mean, Kristen played really well on the third quarter break. Cheshire, Aaron Wright tried to take over the game, but he struggled a little bit against this team because Caledonia are basically bigger than any other team in the league apart from London. And Rob nailed it on the commentary. His mode of sort of around is to run into people and bump them and use his size. Well, there was one time he did that with Moore, and Moore just basically tapped it back in his face. It's a different level of physicality as to certainly NBL, but also to much of the BBL as well. So he wasn't able to impact it as much as I think he would have liked. Rideau was basically off the court for most of the second half. And that left them needing Stevens and Skylar White and Maceo Jack and Kristen to make shots. And they made a few, but they couldn't make them consecutively.
Well, White banked in a ridiculous one to tie the game at 78-78. Yeah. And but they gave up an open corner 3 at the other end on the next possession to Onwas to get those points.
Onwas.
1:49 to go. DeBose fouled by White. Tough one, maybe. 2 free throws.
I thought that call was going to be made. I'm sorry. I know what was said. When you look at the camera angle from the specific angle, but the camera was, he was there. He had a little hand in on the drive, just a little bit, and then he kind of turned his body sideways. I don't necessarily agree with the fact that it's the right call. Certainly, there was one where Rye ran over somebody in the paint, which was the wrong call. But it's a call that's going to be made if in the BBL with the 2 minutes ago when bodies are flying that way. Generally, when a player is driving the basket and he ends up flying sideways, you're getting the call.
Cool. He makes both free throws, 78-70, 78-83. White missed. I didn't think it was the best shot option at the top of the key.
They didn't take the best shot options the whole game.
But there is that.
Let's be honest, they just continued in the same vein and hoped that they would shoot themselves out of it, but they didn't move the ball anything like that. And to be fair, in their offense, generally they don't move the ball that much, but they know where the shots are coming from the pick and pops and their rotations to the corners and that type of stuff. So they don't have to move the ball that much. But against the zone, you kind of do. You got to have a play, you got to have a set or a couple of things you want to run. And I thought they were playing off the cuff too much in this game, Cheshire. I think they need to go and do some work on that in practice.
Rideau with a foul again, not a tremendous amount in it, but enough for 2 free throws for Whelan. 78-85, 123 to go. That was the point at which I started setting up for Sunday night breakdown.
Yeah, it was a game because Cheshire couldn't really make any plays. Jack made a spectacular layup, but that was a 9-point game. Then White gave away a ridiculous foul with 5 seconds left to allow them to extend the lead for points difference purposes. But overall, I mean, it was a hell of a win for Caledonia. Sorry, a heck of a win for them because they were coming up against a team that's won 5 in a row who's just beaten them. They looked bedraggled on Friday night. Just the look about them, Gareth's kind of 1,000-yard stare. The whole thing just did not look right. We had people on social media using a very uncommon Scottish adjectives such as pish and that type of thing. And so, the natives were restless, and for them to go down there with a plan, to zone, use a tactic. This wasn't just let's go and play these guys, to change their rotations. So Garrett's now got Buttrick playing 3 minutes and Jovic's not playing at all. So he's basically decided, well, if these guys aren't going to produce, I can't play them, and then they'll have to get better. And then the other guy, and for them to win in that situation is crucial. Because if they lose in that situation, the spiral can just go poof. Because the 2 guys who aren't playing are peed off because they haven't played, and the team's still lost. So what does the coach know? And then that carries on into practice through the week. So that, and on top of that, the way they won, I thought was controlled, and not saying never in doubt, but certainly as comfortable a win as I think anybody's going to win at Ellesmere Port this year, even though it was a close game at the end. Just on the flow of the game, on the way the game was, never quite felt that Cheshire were there. I think part of that was Cheshire. I think they let the guard down a little bit. Just winning so many games in a row, being comfortable, being confident. And I don't think they reacted to the zone very well either. So yeah, it was a great win for Caledonia. It's really, I mean, that's the first gut check win of the season. The question is whether they'll stay together.
Yeah,
and
it's always interesting as well when you've built this team to play in Europe, and they've played in Europe, and obviously they've gone out of Europe now, so that's the end of the thing. So you have the upside of you no longer playing on Wednesday nights, which is good, but the downside of guys have gone there because they're playing in Europe Cup, and that was.
And you've got a lot, and you've got a lot of players.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got to get the minute, and ultimately they've got a lot of players, but they're not all producing. They're not all helping you. So you have to close down your rotation a little bit, which means other guys have to play a little bit more. And on top of that, the team you've built is a team for Europe. It's not a team for the British Basketball League. It's a physical team. If you look at it, with Dubose 6'3", Whelan 6'3", Police are 6'6", Onwa 6'6", built like a brick toilet. There's a 4, and 2 big centers, Ali Hodzic and Moore. And no real guard quickness coming off the bench. So it's a contra BBL team. It's a European team. That's why they've done so well. That's why they played well against Anvil, because they're meeting those teams with size. The question is, are they going to be able to adapt quickly enough to all the quick guards that they're going to come across, and the speed of the play in the British Basketball League? They played that game without 2 imports. Jovicic and Buttrick basically didn't play. So they won that game with 4 imports, and Cheshire obviously missing 1. But is that situation resolvable? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. They're going to have to. Also, we're at the point whereby everyone's playing for between 2nd and 7th as well.
Yeah.
It's tough. And just on that, I may as well throw it in now because I just want to extend this on your birthday a bit longer.
Thank you.
Of course, everyone's playing for 2nd and 7th, but anybody with a brain doesn't want to finish 4th or 5th.
Have we had confirmation of the bracket? I haven't seen that. If we have,
I thought it would come out in July, that they changed it.
I just assumed they would, but
which is obviously utterly short-sighted, because it means that it's far better to finish 6th or 7th than it is to finish 4th or 5th.
Yeah.
You're going to avoid London in the semi-finals. And London are arguably beatable over one game, but whether anybody can get close to them over 3 is so we could have some absolutely historic tanking going on by the end of the season.
Bum fight.
You know, it could be Charnwood seconds versus Newcastle College. You know, by the end of the season, you know, it could be the girls under 14 teams playing it to finish. Yeah, to make sure we don't finish 4th or 5th. Dear me, what a mess.
So
it's all about changing things for changing's sake. Jesus. Anyway,
so every year people tell me the bracket is better.
every year they're wrong.
Rye 17 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. Jack 16 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Christians 13, 37% from the floor they shot. Police 23% and 5 rebounds. DeBose 18 points and 5 assists. Whelan 17 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. They shot 52% from the floor.
Yeah, they just played better, and you know, and I hope I do think there's a danger Cheshire should become a little bit hubristic. At the end of the day, they're playing very well. It's the first part of the season. They're 11-5, something like 10. That. Which is 10-5. It's a great start for them, but still a lot of stuff to do, a lot of work to do. And I would just, if I was Coach Thomas, I would just be having a little tap on the social media fella's shoulder and just saying, just check with me first. Just hold it off until we've beaten them again, because well, that's old-fashioned.
I'd expect nothing less.
So we are nothing if not stuck very much in the mud.
Run through the table. London Lions 14-2, Cheshire Phoenix 10-5, Sheffield 9-6, Newcastle 9-7, Caledonia 8-5, Bristol 8-8, Leicester 7-7. So interesting. The second and third from last year are both 500 and down in the bottom half of the table. Yeah, in the optimum spots there in 6th and 7th. And then Surrey 5-11. Manchester 4-11, so now outside of the playoff places, and Plymouth are 2-14.
A lot of games being played as well, haven't there? Yeah. 16 games. That's nearly half the season already. It's the end of November. So you be through, teams are going to be through 20-odd games before Christmas. Then we've got January for the trophy where it'll slow down. Then you're only going to have to be playing, 12, 15 games for the end of the season to get to the middle of April. So probably going to slow down.
Come on, Dave, it's my birthday. We can't be talking about the end of the season.
Well, just make sure that you've reached the next birthday, Dan, So yeah, anyway, well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Sure, not quite as old as me, albeit possibly slightly older in mindset.
Definitely not on calendar, Dave. I'm definitely still chasing you down on calendar. Not far behind, not far enough behind, unfortunately.
Far enough, yeah. Fair enough.
But I'm going to go off and have a birthday beer while this renders.
Brilliant.
So
I'm very impressed that you might do 3 games.
Yeah.
On your birthday and then do an hour and a half of this rubbish.
My family expect nothing less. They were not surprised to walk through the door and see whatever the 3 o'clock game was.
I'll guarantee you about midnight tonight, I will be woken up by a text from a 75-year-old father who will say, "I am your first viewer on YouTube."
That's excellent. Because there's people who actually watch it before I even tweet out. I was impressed by those people.
Yeah, that'll be him. To which my response is, "I'm so proud."
Yeah. So next Sunday is the 3rd of December, and I do not appear to be working. So we're on a Sunday again next week. We're almost consistent.
Games next Sunday, because next Sunday is the famous Forrester trip out to the Customs House in South Shields for the best pantomime in the land.
Right.
So I might miss the 3 o'clock game. You might have to give us some help with that.
Yeah. So let's have a look. The 3rd, there is a 3 and a 6.
Oh, well, the 3, I might have to watch it fast forward. Who's at 3?
London Caledonia.
Oh, well, I'll watch the first 20 minutes. That's all I need.
Yeah. So there we go. And then Cheshire Leicester is the 6 o'clock game. So let's leave it there.
That'll be good. That will be good. Yeah.
I'm off for a beer. Have a good week. See you later. Goodbye.